Hello, Robert. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing well. Glad to see you here.
Glad to see you.
Get together again. Fine.
We've had some weather.
Yeah, we have. Enjoyed it very much.
And you have one of my favorite t-shirts.
This is from the Mining Museum, the Mariposa County Golden Mining Museum.
Okay, and we're going to talk a little bit about mining today.
Okay.
They're in the process of starting the processing of permits for the mine out at Mount Bullion and Bear Valley. And we had the manager of the project, a fellow by the name of Keith Boyle.
Yes.
Do a little presentation on that. And I was wondering if you'd had an opportunity to see that and if you had some thoughts you could share with him.
Okay, yes, I saw Keith Boyle's presentation. A nice little video clip that I saw you published. He's the project director for the Fremont mine, and they have acquired this mining property out in Bear Valley. And his descriptions seem to me to be a sales pitch to stockholders, which of course is part of his job. They need to get enough people to buy into the mine. Mining is an expensive adventure. He didn't have a lot of specifics, which indicates to me that they're at this stage they're still in what we call the pre-feasibility phase of the project, where they have a fairly well-defined ore body and they're trying to pencil out how best to go about getting that ore and getting into the mining business basically and producing gold. So they're a long ways off, really, years off before they start actually breaking ground, in my opinion. He didn't even know whether they're going to have an open pit mine or a subterranean mine. He's talking about dry heap for the tailings. And instead of having a tailings pond, which would require building a dam, which is expensive, and those dams often leak. So they're obviously thinking about ways to mitigate objections to their project, which is a good thing, as they should. He mentioned a couple of times that he wants to get the community involved, and I guess he's doing that by giving you an interview and probably talking to other people. I haven't had a chance to meet Keith yet, but overall, I think the one thing we need to keep in mind is to not get sold by the idea, or the romantic idea of gold mining flourishing once again in these hills, where gold mining is historic, and it's what makes Mariposa such an interesting place. Gold mining ain't what it used to be, folks. Today they're moving thousands of tons per day of ore in order to get a very small amount of gold, and the process of getting that gold out of the ore, it can be pretty messy, especially environmentally speaking. Not only that, but whether they have a subterranean or an open pit mine, the effects to scarring the earth and changing the terrain, changing the panorama is significant, and it is reversible. I just recently saw an article where a coal mine in Colombia had supposedly been restored to its original beauty, and they had backfilled an open pit mine and planted plants and reforested and kind of put it back the way it was. That is doable, but it's very expensive. I've been on projects where the community was demanding that for a greenfield mine, that the mining company put really hundreds of millions of dollars in an escrow account, an interest-bearing escrow account, which would be guaranteed funds for restoration after the mine was expired. Because what happens a lot of times is the mine is mined out. The company creates a shell company that owns the mining property that's becoming less and less valuable, and at some point they simply declare bankruptcy and walk away, and the community is left with cleaning up the mess.
A couple of things.
Yeah.
Your background is pretty extensive in the mining business. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, I wouldn't say extensive. I mean, I'm not one of the, I worked with a lot of people that had spent 30, 40 years in the mining business. I only was there for about 15 years myself.
15 years.
Yeah. Worked with a lot of very interesting, very talented, very smart people. Worked on gold mines and copper molybdenum mines, and did a little bit of work on a bauxite mine, aluminum oxide plant. But most of my mining experience is in copper. Even though I was in Chile most of the time, I did visit a couple of gold mines up in Peru and saw how they operate, how they go about doing the mining process. And it is, as I said, well, I guess the elephant in the room is that in order to leach gold out of the ore, they use a solution of lime and cyanide. And so you have this cyanide solution dripping through the crushed ore, right, and the gold gets precipitated out. And at the end of it, yeah, you have gold, but you also have a lot of cyanide in solution, which is hard to get rid of.
The other thing is, Keith talked a lot about technology, and using robots and remote operations, and it's a high-tech operation that he's talking about there.
I imagine so, yeah. And there's a lot of advances going on in the mining industry. Remote controlled drills and loaders and so on, working underground without humans operating them. That technology has been around for a few decades now. One thing that I thought odd was that on the one hand he was saying that a mine like this would create a lot of really high value jobs in the community, but on the other hand he's saying it's going to be highly automated, which means fewer people involved, and that a lot of the tasks could be done remotely, which means people with high paying jobs sitting someplace else outside the county working this mine.
Outside the county, that remote?
Sure, yeah, it can be. They could be in Tahiti, and as long as they have enough bandwidth and availability through the internet, they can do that. A lot of industries do this. The oil industry is the same way.
In your mind, what is the best way that our community can make sure that our interests are best represented in the permitting process?
Well, the best way to prepare ourselves to make sure this mine project reflects our own best interest is transparency and education. People need to do a little research and dispense with the idea of the old geezer like you and me with a donkey and an axe pick going out and getting gold out of these Demar hills. This is a much different operation. As a matter of fact, my last project was on a feasibility study. Now, these projects are so large that this client spent almost $400 million on just the feasibility study. Gives you an idea. Okay. And the environmentalists that were countering it, their starting position was, you shall have no mine. And we had to claw back permits from that standpoint. And I think that's what we should do here. The best case scenario is no project at all. The worst case scenario is for us all to just kind of put our heads in the sand and let them do what they will, and we will end up with polluted creeks, with defaced mountains, with a lot more heavy truck traffic on our roads, and very few, if any, high-paying jobs in return.
And the residual impact of the mine, the wealth is all going someplace else.
That's true, yeah. I mean, all that gold, none of it stays here. Now, I guess thinking more idealistically, if Mariposa County were to act like say the government of Chile, in Chile, every ton of copper concentrate that is mined out of their country, the government gets a cut of that money. And now, if our county were to be able to say, okay, you can have your mine, you have to meet all these environmental concerns, plus for every ounce of gold or every ton of gold or whatever your quantity is, Mariposa County gets a cut because that's coming out of our county.
You know, that was something that was brought up to me yesterday. Bear Valley used to be kind of the capital of the county of Mariposa. It was a business center with the pine tree. This mining site, the pine tree and the Josephine mine, going back to Fremont's days. And Fremont had his headquarters here. One of those buildings, a lot of those buildings out in Bear Valley, they were dry laid rock, and they're falling over. And it's going to be a costly project to preserve some of these old historic structures. And it's way beyond the means of most of the private property owners. And as a result of that, these properties are falling down. Many of these historic monuments that I came up here with and got to know are gone, like the old Trabuco warehouse. This lady suggested to me that perhaps this company could put money aside to help preserve the heritage of mining in Bear Valley and around the county. Mitigation, as it were, in some respect. How does that?
That's certainly a valid position to take. As a matter of fact, again, going back to my previous mining projects that I worked on, some communities, part of the settlement to allowing the mining company to move forward, the scope of the project included a new hospital, a new school, a playground, a new water supply, a repaired and widened road, and so on. A lot of infrastructure benefits for the community, which was being otherwise adversely affected by the mining operation.
Where was that?
That was down in Chile.
Chile.
Yeah.
Kind of a backward country, right?
Well, you know, they are, but they are one of the many signatories to an agreement called the International Labor Organization, ILO 169.
Yes.
And the United States has not signed on to that agreement. And that agreement essentially says it guarantees Native peoples the right to self-determination. And it pinpoints the what they call exploitative industries, which would mining would be one, oil another, and so on, that they would have to answer to the local Native people. I mean,
and that's us.
The people that live there, the people, yeah, the local residents would have to have some say in the project and would have to also benefit somehow from the project.
But you say the United States isn't a party to that?
No, they're not, unfortunately. And there's probably some good reasons, but I won't get into politics.
Okay. You know, Robert, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me about this. We're all trying to learn. And this could have a big impact on our community and our county, and positive and negative. But being prepared and not getting stonewalled, as you say, is probably, with a little help from our friends like you, we can probably get this through this.
Well, yeah, and I guess I see it as partially my responsibility, because I do have a little bit of inside knowledge on this industry, and so it would be on me to try to help disseminate information and get people to where they can understand what it really could mean to our community.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Always nice talking to you.
And it's always nice visiting out here. Bye-bye.
Good.